Hello guys, good afternoon. You are welcome to my YouTube channel, The Explicit Tutorials. As you all know, I'm Dr. Joseph, and please, as you watch this video, do subscribe so that when I upload new videos, you would be notified by YouTube, alright? So just as we're about to jump into the topic of today, I will advise you pay proper attention in order for you to get the best, alright? So we are discussing a very important topic in the world of biology, and the topic is the cell. Under the cell, we have the history of the cell, the theory of the cell, and the organelles of the cell. We are not stopping there. We are also going to look at the differences between the plant cell and the animal cell. From there, we look at the properties of the cell. We'll be discussing excretion, respiration, as the case may be, and metabolism. Now, just as you all know, we say that an atom is the smallest or indivisible part of every matter that can undergo a chemical reaction, and at the end of the reaction, it remains chemically what? Unchanged. That is how it is in living things. So if they should ask you the basic units of matter, you would say what? Atom, right? Now, if they should ask you the basic units of every living thing, is called what? The cell. Cell is the building blocks, all right? Or I say that cells are the building blocks of every living organism on earth, all right? It means that every part of a living species comprises cell. So the cells are the building blocks of living organisms. So what do we say cells are? Cells are the simplest, they are the simplest and the smallest basic unit of life. Therefore, we see that cell is a basic structural and functional unit of life. Cell is a basic structural and functional unit of life. But I'm not okay with that definition. Let me give you a much more acceptable definition. What is a cell? A cell is the fundamental, or it is a structural and fundamental unit of the protoplasm. All right, it is the basic or fundamental or structural unit of what? This of the protoplasm, which is made of nucleus, which is made up of nucleus and cytoplasmic materials. Cytoplasmic what? Materials. Now, meaning that the protoplasm comprises two organelles, the nucleus and the cytoplasm. Do you understand? So the nucleus and the cytoplasm will give birth to the protoplasm. So the cell is the fundamental, the structural, the basic unit of the protoplasm, which is made of nucleus and cytoplasmic materials. All right, some of you may be asking yourself, what are these cytoplasmic materials? They are the organelles suspended in the cytosol of the cytoplasm. Now, the cytosol is the jelly fluid that suspends all other organelles in the cytoplasm, because you know that the cytoplasm is a space in which other organelles are what? Suspended. All right, so the fluid found, the jelly-like fluid found in the cytoplasm that suspend these organelles, we call it the cytosol. So examples of cytoplasmic materials are the mitochondria, all right, the ribosomes, the lysosome, the rough and smooth endoplasmic reticulum, the Golgi bodies. All of these are they are called what? Cytoplasmic materials. They'll ask you, which of the following organelles controls all the activities taking place in the cell? Which of the following organelles controls all the activities taking place in the cell? The answer is the nucleus. The nucleus is the largest or the most conspicuous part of the cell. It is the largest organelle. Alright, that is why we say it is the most conspicuous. That is, it is obvious. You easily see it. It is the most conspicuous part of the cell that controls all the activities taking place in the cell. I'll ask you, why is the cell considered as the most important organelle? It is considered the most important organelle because it houses or stores genetic materials. Do you understand that? So please, protoplasm is equal to nucleus plus what? Cytoplasm. Meaning that nucleus plus cytoplasm will give birth to what? Protoplasm. And protoplasm is known as the living content of the cell. Dash is known as the living content of the cell. The answer is the protoplasm. Now, the protoplasm was formerly called sarcode, alright? Was formerly called sarcode. And this word sarcode was coined by Felix Dujardin. In year 1835, alright? Felix Dujardin in year 1835 named the living content of the cell sarcode. But as time went on, the sarcode was then called protoplasm by Pontchartrain and Volmar. Don't worry, we'll analyze it once we get to the history of the cell. So please, when we're asked what are the types of cell, what would you say? List the types of cells. If it was to be a standard exam question, list the types of cells, and or they'll ask you enumerate or highlight the types of cells. What will you write? Will you write plant and animal cells, or white and red blood cells, or the prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell? So please take note of this. On a broad note, we have two types of cells. We have the prokaryotic cells. And we have the eukaryotic cell. So these are the two types of cells that we have. It is not plant cell and animal cell. Neither is it red blood cell and white blood cell. The two types of cells that we have are the prokaryotic cells and the eukaryotic cell. You know, according to the postulation or according to the principle or theory of Carolus Linnaeus, all right, it said that I'm trying to say something right now. So it said, you know, it classified organisms hierarchically, where we have the kingdom, where we have the phylum. Now, under the kingdom, we have 5 kingdoms: the Monera, the Protista or the Prototista. We have the fungi, we have Plantae and Animalia. 5 kingdoms, all right? So all of these 5 kingdoms, kingdom Monera is prokaryotic, while kingdom fungi, while kingdom Protista, down to kingdom Animalia are all eukaryotic. Now, what is the most important feature of a prokaryotic cell or prokaryote? Prokaryotic cells are the cells, right? While prokaryotes are the organisms. Alright, so I can be using the two terms interchangeably, okay? Now, the prokaryotic cells are called prokaryotic cells because they lack a well-defined nucleus. Alright? If the prokaryotic cells lack a well-defined nucleus, it therefore means that the eukaryotic cell that possess a well-defined or formed nucleus. Alright? They possess a well-defined nucleus, but these guys lack a well-defined nucleus. Then number 2, the prokaryotic cell lack what is called, they lack membrane bound organelles. They lack membrane bound organelles such as the ribosomes, alright, the lysosomes, the mitochondria, alright, Golgi bodies, rough endoplasmic reticulum, and smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Alright, so the prokaryotic cell lacks all these membrane bound organelles. If these cells lack these organelles, therefore means that they possess membrane bound organelles. Isn't that correct? Very, very correct. Then another thing you should note about this guy is that they lack nuclear membrane. They lack nuclear what? Membrane. If they lack nuclear membrane, it therefore means that these guys, they possess nuclear membrane. Alright, they possess nuclear membrane. Alright, they possess nuclear membrane. Then you should note that these cells are usually very small. Alright, they range from 0.5 to 5.0 micrometer in diameter. Alright, but these guys, they are larger. Alright, they get up to they are as large as 10 microwatt meter. Alright, so these cells are bigger than these ones, but these ones are smaller than these ones. Alright, another thing you should also know about, let me rub off this part please. Another thing you should also note about the prokaryotic cell is that their genetic materials are found in the cytoplasm. Why do you think the genetic materials are found in the cytoplasm? It is because they lack what? Nucleus. Alright, so they lack a well-defined nucleus. These ones, they have a well-defined nucleus. Therefore, their genetic materials are not found in the cytoplasm. They are found what? In the nucleus. Hope that is clear. Another difference is that the prokaryotic cell, they lack what is called protein histone. They lack protein histone. These ones, they possess protein histone. Protein histone is a type of protein that the DNA wraps around itself to form what? The chromatin. Alright, the protein histone is a type of protein that the DNA wraps around itself to form chromatin. We have 5 types of protein histone. We have H1, we have H2A, we have H2B, we have H3, and we have H4. All of these are denoted as protein histones, and they are 5 in number, right? Take note of that. Now, the prokaryotic cell has the DNA or RNA. They have the DNA or RNA, but eukaryotic cell have the DNA and RNA. Alright, another difference between these two cells is that the what's it called now? The prokaryotic cells are majorly found in bacteria, alright, and viruses, but these cells are found in protozoans, fungi, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, and what? Angiosperms. It is very, very important. Now, we said that the prokaryotic cell, they lack nucleus, a well-defined nucleus. But the eukaryotic cell has a well-defined nucleus. Therefore, these guys, the prokaryotic cells, cannot undergo mitosis and meiosis. Therefore, the eukaryotic cell undergo both mitosis and what? Meiosis. Alright, if these ones do not undergo any of these phenomena, it therefore means that reproduction is by replication, transduction and what? Conjugation. Reproduction is by replication, transduction, and conjugation. Please take notes of that. So these are the differences between the prokaryotic cells and the eukaryotic cell. So mammals in general, alright, birds, fishes, all of these organisms are eukaryotes. They have eukaryotic what? Cell, because they have a well-defined nucleus. But bacteria, viruses are prokaryotic cell. These ones are eukaryotic cell, right? While these ones are prokaryotic cell because they lack well-defined nucleus. Hope that is clear. So these are the 2 types of nucleus or nuclei, the 2 types of cells that we have. It is not plant cell and animal cell, neither is it red blood cell and white blood cell. I believe that has been taken. Now the next thing we'll look at is the history of the cell. the history of the cell, we are going to be looking at different personalities that were involved in making sure that the cell was brought into the knowledge of man. It was brought to existence from the cells that existed before. Of course, the cell existed from the very beginning, but it was not made known. But scientists took it upon themselves and brought it into the world of science. All right. So, what do you know about the history of the cell? All right. How many scientists were involved in making sure that the cell was brought to existence or was brought to the world of science? Let's look at it. The history of the cell. The history of the cell. All right. I hope it's recording. Excuse me. Yeah, it's recording. I'm checking. Yeah, I have to check. Oh, I have to check. I cannot talk for 1 hour. Then at the end, I'll not realize that I'll be talking to myself. That would be a big mess. Now, what do you know about the history of the cell? The cell started in what year? Who was the first person to have brought about the cell? Now, listen to this very well. Number one thing, or the first thing you should note, or you should not forget about the cell, the very first person that brought about the cell, that discovered the cell, was Robert Hooke in year 1665. Robert Hooke was the very first scientist that discovered the cell. If he was the first person that discovered the cell, he is ascribed as the father of the cell. The father of the cell. So Robert Hooke is known as the father of the cell. Then number two, Felix Dujardin in 1835 stated that all living things were made of cell. That was what he stated. He said that both plants and animals were made of cell. In what year? 1835. Now, after this postulation, what did he do? He subjected the cell under a microscope. During the process, he then observed that the cell was having some living content. This living content he called sarcode. He called these living content sarcode. Now the sarcode, after being coined, it was later called protoplasm, just as I initially explained. It was then called protoplasm by Purkinje and von Moll. So the two persons that coined sarcode, or that changed sarcode, or that renamed it to protoplasm, were Purkinje and von Moll. Take note of that. Then number three, we have the Matthias. We have Matthias Kleden or Skleden in 1838. All right, he was a botanist. The study of plant is called what? Botany. The study of animal is called zoology. He was a botanist. He therefore stated that all plants were made of cell. Matthias Kleden stated that all plants were made of cell in year 1838. All right. Then number four, we now have Theodore Schwann in 1839. All right, it says that all animals were made of cell. He was a zoologist. All right, he was a zoologist stating that animals were made of cell. All right, then number five, we have the Rudolf von Virchow in 1855. He stated that the cells come from pre-existing cells, meaning that the cells existing now, they emanated from the ones that existed before. The word pre means before. So the cells come from pre-existing cell. and it was stated in what year? 1855. What about Antonio van Leeuwenhoek? Antonio van Leeuwenhoek was the person that discovered bacteria. So he was the first scientist to discover the bacteria, and he's known as the father of microscopy. The study of bacteria is called bacteriology. But bacteriology was discovered by Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur was a scientist that postulated bacteriology, which is the study of what? Bacteria. But bacteria were discovered by Antonio van Leeuwenhoek. And it was this man that first observed movements in the cell. The first scientist that observed movement in the cell was Antonio van Leeuwenhoek. He's also the person that discovered bacteria and is known as the father of microscopy because he discovered a compounded microscope that has a resolving power or that has a magnifying or resolution power that was above 780, 270. All right, he's known as the father of microscopy because the microscope he discovered had a magnifying power of 270 plus or times, as the case may be. Now, this is for the history of the cell. But take note of this. That's what we call the cell theory. Now, the discovery of Matthias Kleden and Theodor Schwann led to the postulation of the cell theory in year 1839. So the discovery of who and who led to the postulation of the cell theory. The answer is the postulation of Matthias Kleden and Theodor Schwann. Please do not forget that. Now, the word microorganism, the diseases caused by microorganisms and the principles that must be obeyed in order to withstand or in order to prevent the invasion by microorganism was put forward by Robert Koch. So Robert Koch he worked on microorganisms, the principles, the prevention, and all that. All right. Louis Pasteur discovered bacteriology, the study of bacteria. Bacteria was discovered by Antonio van Leeuwenhoek. All right. Very, very important. Now, so this is the history of the cell. Hope that is clear. Now, from there, we'll move on to the cell theory. On a broad note, we have in some textbooks across schools and universities, they'll give you only 3. All right, they'll give you only 3, but we have 5. Number 1, the theory of the cell. The theory of the cell. 1, all living things, all living things, I think I will just dictate. All living things are made of cell. That's the first one. All living things are made of cell. Number 2, the cell is the basic structural and functional unit of life. It means that every living thing on earth comprises cell or consists of cells. So all living things are made of cell. Number 2, the cell is a basic structural and functional or fundamental unit of life. Number 3, apart from the life of cell, there is no other life. Did you hear that? Apart from the life of cell, there is no other life. Meaning that every life that exists on the planet Earth is subject to the cell. Don't forget what we stated. We said that cells are the building blocks of living organisms. All right. Number 4, all right, the cells come from pre-existing cells. Who stated that? It's not Rudolf von Virchow. He was my student. I taught him. Yes, yes. Isaac Newton, all these guys, I taught them now. Even J.J. Thompson and Rutherford, if you see, I taught them, they were my students. I taught them, I taught them. Is it your thoughts? Yeah, no, I taught them. Even Henry Becquerel, Marie Curie, and Marie Curie, I taught them. I taught them. Even, what is the name of this one? Maxwell, Jean Maxwell, even Charles Darwin, Jean Baptiste Lamarck, Gregor Mendel. These guys really, I taught them. When you see them, you ask them, okay? Only you now know how to see them. Oh, I don't know, but you ask them. So that is for that. Number 5. Some living organisms could have one cell. We call these guys unicellular organisms. They are single-celled organisms. Examples are amoeba. Examples are amoeba proteus, Paramecium caudatum, Euglena viridis, and Chlamydomonas rivalis. Even what is it called now? This guy, what is his name again? What is his name of this guy? Plasmodium falciparum. Plasmodium falciparum. A guy that causes malaria. You know, we have 3 species of plasmodia. We have Plasmodium falciparum, we have Plasmodium vivax, and we have Plasmodium malariae. But the one that is most parthenogenic is Plasmodium falciparum. Okay, so all of these are unicellular, even Trypanosoma species. All right, the pathogen that causes what? Sleeping sickness, trypanosomiasis. All right, even what is the name of this guy again? Entamoeba gingivalis. All right, Entamoeba gingivalis, Entamoeba histolytica. All of these are, you know, now they are unicellular because they have one cell. All right, so Entamoeba, that's Entamoeba histolytica, causes what is called entamoebic dysentery, which is a food and waterborne disease. All right, characterized by watery, excreta, vomiting, weakness, pain, and all that. Okay, so take note of that. Hope that is clear. I take it again. 1. All things are made up of cell. 2. Cell is a basic structural and functional or fundamental unit of life. Number 3. Apart from the life of cell, there is no other life. Number 4. The cell comes from pre-existing cell. Number 5. Some organisms could have one cells. We call these ones unicellular organisms. Examples are this. While others can have 2 or more cells, we call them multicellular organisms. Examples are volvus, Spirogyra, Udorina, Padorina, birds, fishes, and mammals. All animals. Do you understand? So take note of that. Hope that is clear. So we are done with the theory of the cell, the history of the cell, and the types of cells. So what do we look at next? Let's look at the organelles. The organelles that make up the cell. Organelles. Now I'm going to list all the organelles found in the cell. I'm going to list all of them, but in our next class we are going to be analyzing the function of each organelle. Hope that is clear. Now let's get started. 1, I have the nucleus. 2, I have the cytoplasm. 3, I have the mitochondria. All right. 4, I have the ribosome. 5, I have the lysosome. 6, I have the vacuole. 7, I have the Golgi bodies. 8, I have the endoplasmic reticulum. I have the chloroplasts. Instead for me to write chloroplasts, let me just write plastids. Under the plastids, there are 3 in number. We have the chloroplasts, we have the chromoblasts, and we have the leucoplasts. So all of these are the three plastids that we have. That's for that. We have the cell wall, we have the cell membrane. Another word for the cell membrane, we sometimes call it plasma membrane or plasma lemma. Plasma lemma. Alright? Which of the following is also called plasma lemma? They'll give you cell membrane or plasma membrane. Okay, we now have the cytoskeleton. Cytoskeleton. Alright, we have the cytoskeleton, and we have the middle lamella. We have the middle lamella. Which one is remaining? Okay, I think these are the fundamental. We have the nucleus, the cytoplasm, the mitochondria, the ribosome, the lysosome, the vacuole, the Golgi bodies, the endoplasmic reticulum. We have the cell wall, the cell membrane, the cytoskeleton, the middle lamella. Is there any other one I've not mentioned there? I don't think so. I don't think so. So these are the major organelles that we have. All right, that is at this level. These are the organelles we are going to be analyzing in our next class. Thanks for watching. Do have a wonderful day. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, I will advise you to do so, so that when I upload new videos, YouTube will send you a notification that Dr. Joseph has uploaded a new content. Thanks for watching, and do have a wonderful day. And please take note of this. The study of the cell is called cytology. Yeah. The study of the cell is called cytology. The study of tissues is called histology. Alright, the study of organ is called organology. Alright, please take notes of that. It is very, very important.